Right. Good afternoon, good morning, depending on where you're dialing in from. I'm just moving everything across onto my screen here. And welcome to this week's Wednesday webinar from Kowalah. I am in the luxurious Belfry Golf Resort here in the middle of the UK, where I'm running a customer workshop this morning, and now in one of their lovely boardrooms. So welcome. If this is the first of the Kowalah Wednesday webinars that you have joined, we get together every Wednesday for an hour, and it gives us an opportunity to take a look at one topic or feature from the world of AI, because things are just moving so fast. It is difficult, even if you do this 24/7 as we do, to keep on top of everything and understand not just what these things do, but how can we incorporate them into our workflows and our organizations. And so today, really excited to be looking at Claude for Excel and PowerPoint, which is something that I'm hearing so much of, but we'll dive into that a little bit more in a minute. We'll have our main topic, and this may be 15 or 20 minutes of our hour together. And then I'll move into our recurring section of AI in the news. As I say, there is so much stuff going on that to keep on top of all of this is pretty tricky. So we scour the news and give you what we think are the most important updates for you to know in your organization. And then there's an opportunity for you to ask any questions that you might have. Now, this could be about some of the topics that we're going to cover in today's webinar, but it could be about anything. You may say, Charlie, I've got this ultimate prompt that I'm trying to write. What's the difference between a GPT and a skill? Whatever it might be, feel free to fire your questions away, and I will do my best to answer them. But don't wait until the Q&A section. If you've got a question about Claude for Excel as we go through that, or about anything AI in the news, feel free to ask your questions. You will see in the Zoom, depending on what machine you're on, maybe at the top or at the bottom of your screen, there's both a Q&A panel where you can ask a question and I will answer it, or there's a chat panel as well where other participants can see your chats. I will do my best to keep an eye on that, and if not, my colleague Caitlin, who's on the call, will keep me honest and point me in the right direction. So with that, Claude for Excel and for PowerPoint. Now, I happen to come from 20 years of working in the Google ecosystem, and am a great lover of Google Drive, Google Docs, Google Sheets, and I've not been near an Excel or a PowerPoint for a long period of time, but I've seen more Excels and more PowerPoints in the last 8 weeks than I have in those previous 20 years. And it's because Claude is so good at working with local files, and Excels and PowerPoints are local files. And so it's excellent at that. And for many of our clients who are in the Microsoft ecosystem, and especially those that are working in finance, they are heavy Excel users. And so it's getting great adoption in those teams as well. So I'm going to dive into the actual tools themselves in a minute, but just to frame it for you in terms of what we're talking about, Claude for Excel and Claude for PowerPoint. These are plugins that run in your actual Excel and in your actual PowerPoint. On my screen here, you can see I'm in the online version, Office 365, and I've got an Excel open, and you can see Claude on the right. And here you can see I'm in the online version of PowerPoint, and in the same way on the right hand side we've got Claude. Now it's important to understand that the difference between chatting with Claude in your Claude.ai in your browser or in your Claude desktop, and you're uploading a spreadsheet or a PowerPoint, versus here where you're bringing Claude actually into the files that you're using. In the demonstrations that I'm going to give you now, I'm going to be using Office 365, so I'm going to be in the browser. But you should know that these things exist in your actual downloaded Excel and PowerPoint as well. So firstly, how do you get these things? Well, if you go to let me go to my, just hiding away under there. So here I am in my Excel, and you will find that you've got an add-ins bar here. And all you need to do is just search for Claude, and then it's going to come up. I've obviously installed it already. Depending on your organization that you're in and how restrictive your IT and tech team have been on what you can install, if you search and you don't find it, then you might want to go and speak to your friendly IT person and ask them if they can approve the Claude application in Excel, and they'll be able to push that out through some kind of managed service provision out to yourselves. You're going to do exactly the same thing if you are in PowerPoint as well. Let me close that, I think. Oh no, here we go. Here's the ribbon up here. So you're going to search for Claude again, and you're going to find it and you're going to install it. And so if I open that up, you're going to see it here, and then it's in the sidebar. So let me go back to my my spreadsheet here. So I've clicked on Claude, I've opened up Claude here, and I've just got a basic spreadsheet here. Now this, if I just move my image thing out the way so I can see everything that's going on. This is my default public data set that I use for a lot of my demos. It shows all of the aircraft traffic by each airport in the UK during June 2020. And if you can cast your mind back to those wonderful days of mid-pandemic, you'll remember that there was not a lot of travel going on. So it's just a useful, interesting data set. So what we've got here is Claude on the right-hand side. We've logged in. I am logged in, but when I first came in here, there was a login to Claude button. I click on that. It then logs me into my main Claude using the web browser, and then comes back in here. And then what can I do? Well, I can choose which model. And if you're doing any kind of complex data analysis, then I'd be using Opus 4.6, which is the larger model. And here I can add in any other bits and pieces as well. So maybe I've got some connectors. Maybe in your organization you're using NetSuite for your ERP. Maybe you're plugged into HubSpot, your CRM, but you've got access to all of these so that you can connect your Claude into those things as well. But so let's just have some examples. We've got this spreadsheet. Well, what might we want to do? Well, hey Claude, I've just opened up this spreadsheet. I'm not really sure what data is included here. So can you tell me what you can see? This is just to give you an idea of Claude being able to go and take a look at a set of data, and it is navigating its way around, understanding what the rows are. So you can see it as I'm reading the columns, and now I'm thinking about it. Here's what's in this spreadsheet. Let me give you a bit more space here. Scroll up. This file is June 2020 aircraft movements. It contains a single sheet with 57 rows of data. 57 rows of data because you've got the header, and 15 columns. It records aircraft movement for June 2020. This is what's in each of the columns: the reporting period, reporting airport, group name, reporting airport name, grand total, so on. Key highlights: 57 airports are listed. Heathrow had the highest grand total, 7,568 movements. 7,568 movements. The data captures a period heavily impacted by COVID-19, so it knows what the date was. Would you like me to do any analysis on this data, such as ranking the airports, summarizing by group, or creating charts? Okay, this is very helpful. I'm doing some analysis on the impacts of the pandemic, and I'm trying to understand if there are some themes or some lessons that we could pull out of this. Maybe about different aircraft types, for example, or different movement types. So what do you think would be some good analysis that we could draw from this? Just as a reminder for anyone that this is your first time on a Kowalah Wednesday webinar, I use a tool called Whisper Flow, which is what I'm doing when I'm talking to Claude. With Whisper Flow, wherever I put my cursor, I just press my function key on my Mac, I talk, and then when I let go, it just puts all of the words directly there. I just do not type anymore. I just treat a conversation with Claude as if it's a conversation with a human being. And as you'll see, I'm able to provide a lot richer context to the tool by talking. So what does Claude say here? Great question. Let me think about what stories this data could tell us about the pandemic's impact. Let me first gather a fuller picture. So here are some really interesting analytic angles this data can support. Given it's June 2020, the early months of the pandemic, there are several compelling themes. So movement mix analysis, what kept flying? Aircraft transport collapsed. Commercial air transport collapsed, but other types didn't. You could look at what percentage of each airport's total came from non-commercial activity. Hub versus regional airport reliance, island connectivity, business aviation as a signal. My recommendation, I'd suggest building an analysis sheet that includes movement type breakdown by airport, shows what kept airports alive. Would you like me to build some or all of this? Okay, fantastic. I take your recommendation. So please build out that analysis sheet. And then can we add in a couple of charts to bring that to life visually? So what you're going to see now is that not only is the Excel plugin able to read what's on a spreadsheet, it's actually able to take action on it. So you're going to see that it is going to, well, it's just created a new tab here, this analysis tab that has just arrived. It is now able to write scripts to actually do some of this calculation and then start building out. So here it is filling out the spreadsheet. Aircraft movement analysis, movement type by breakdown, movement type breakdown by airport as a percentage of the total. Now let's build phase one. So now writing the 6 formulas for the first airport. So now this is important to know. It's not just doing this analysis outside of the spreadsheet and then hard coding the numbers. It's actually writing the formulas into the spreadsheet so that if you were then going to hand this to someone else, it's going to have all of the workings built in there. So good phase one data is flowing. So yeah, you can see it's built out all of this analysis. Now phase two, airport group comparison. Now, while this is building out, like the conversations I'm having with finance teams who are dealing with very complex multi-tab spreadsheets in doing sort of variance analysis, anomaly detection, forecasting, best case, worst case, what if scenarios, all of this stuff that they're using human financial analysts to go and do this complex work, and it's taking a long time to do it, are texting me now, 10 o'clock at night, going, oh my goodness, I got to tell you what's just happening in front of me. You know, I know what I want to be doing. I just didn't have enough time for it. And now Claude is cranking through this analysis at a crazy rate. Phase two is done. Now let me build phase three, the top 10 tables for key movement types. So this is fantastic. Building all of this out. I should add that if you've got certain templates or style guides or ways of working Excel documents, then we can build that in so that it follows your standards. You know, if you didn't want this blue, but you wanted like a koala pink, then we can build that in so that the Claude follows exactly what you want. Good, the formulas are working. Now let me fill the ranks for 2 to 10. Right, the rank by aircraft movements. So you'll remember 7,568 for Heathrow. So that's absolutely all correct in there. So here you can see it's found an error. Good, the formulas are working. I'm seeing some duplicate results for the air transport ranking. Borough is appearing twice. So it's spotted the error. It's showing rank 1 and 2 because multiple airports have 100% air transport. So now it's writing a little formula to do some tie breaking to work out which one should be at the top. Now let me write these properly as static values since the ranking computation needs sorting logic that formulas can't cleanly handle with ties. So now it's rebuilding that. So it's figured out that it couldn't have something at number one because there was some kind of even Stevens. So it's come up with a new way of solving that and figuring out which is at the top. And let me see what we've got. Phase three. Okay, phase four is what I want to wait for, which is building out charts for you. So I'm going to let Claude keep going. So top 10 by test and training. Okie dokie. While that's doing, it's going to start building phase four, the charts. A question that often comes up is, which model should I use and how do I know? And what's the impact of that? Well, Claude has three main models, of which only two are available here, Sonnet and Opus. And for those of you with a linguistics degree, you know, Sonnet is a sort of a shorter a bit of verse and an opus, a very long bit of writing. And so Opus is the bigger model. It's good for much more complex analytics and forecasting, data analysis, but it also uses more tokens. And so what I'd recommend is that you start, where possible, using Sonnet 4.6 and then use Opus when you really need sort of full power. Because you'll use your tokens, your usage much more on Opus. I have to say, I'm pretty much using Opus all of the time, but I'm on a sort of premium account, so I've got a bit more juice to be able to use. But if you find that you're hitting limits, then that's a reason to be thinking about Opus. So let's have a look down here. Okay, so we got some charts here. So movement type mix by airport group. And so this is showing us the military, the official, what we got here, business aviation. Okay, not quite sure about this. All right. Okay, 100%. Okay, oh, it's tidying it up a little bit. Nice. And then some more charts here. Top 10 airports by total movements. So here's Heathrow at the 7,568. Aberdeen next. Okay, I'd need to have a look at that because I'm sure Gatwick would be less, but then maybe not because they had less. Let me have a look. Gatwick, only 580 flights. So yes, there were more flights at other airports. This is when, I thought I was going to catch it out there and go, well, surely Gatwick is less, but is next. But actually, very low flights from Gatwick. There we go. Oh, and a nice pie chart. Movement type by share of total, air transport. Lovely. And then some notes from here as well. So what I hope this shows you is the power of this Excel plugin to actually take action in your spreadsheets. Much more than just analyzing it in Claude. By bringing Claude into your spreadsheet itself, it's been super powerful. Right, next thing I'm going to do, I've got another spreadsheet, which I'm just going to upload here, which is aircraft traffic movements for March 2025. So just about a year ago. And I'm just going to add that in. Hey, Claude, I've just uncovered another set of data, the same data set, but from March 2025. So I'm wondering if you can create a new tab which compares and contrasts the pandemic traffic with the non-pandemic traffic. And I just want a simple table, actually, probably maybe looking at the top 10 airports and looking at the relative difference. Maybe we've got some bar charts here where we can compare the traffic in the two scenarios. So this is just to demonstrate to you that Claude can not just work on one spreadsheet at a time, but you can actually start to add in other data sets as well. So let me first read the March 2025 file to understand its structure, and then refresh my memory on the June 2020 data. Okay, good. I got both data sets. Let me now process and build the comparison. Now, when we're working with clients on this type of stuff, this is quite fun. It's a party trick to sort of play around with this pandemic flight data. But the thing that really makes it land for clients is you've got a spreadsheet that you are working on right now. You probably have. It's the board report, it's the forecast, and maybe you're going through an M&A deal. Maybe it is looking at the sales reports for the last quarter. There's something that you're working on. And the moment you first plug Claude in and you just start asking Claude to do some of the analysis that you're already trying to do is when it really, really comes to life and moves from sort of party trick to actual, oh my goodness, this is really, really helping me. So now it's created this new March 2025 data. It's just copying that across from the spreadsheet that I have given it. And then we'll just have a look at this compare and contrast. So this is a very common situation that we see with finance teams is reconciliation. So it's the end of the month, it's the end of the quarter. I've pulled this spreadsheet out of NetSuite or SAP or Xero, and I pulled this spreadsheet out of HubSpot or our order system or our client system. And what I need to do is to reconcile these supplier invoices, these PO numbers, and bring them all together. And so this is exactly where this Claude for Excel plugin comes in. I've got these two things, and I now need to match them up. And so this is a really good scenario for that. So we will just let Claude build out a chart here, and then we will start looking at moving it into presentations. As I said, if you've got any questions, feel free to pop them into the chat, and I'll do my best to answer. This Claude instance in your Excel, it uses the same tokens and the same usage from your main Claude, but these chats do not appear back in your Claude. So think of these as being a kind of a unique offshoot where you're chatting in Excel. It's using your usage, but you aren't going to then be able to continue this conversation back in your main Claude because it wouldn't have access to the spreadsheets. Good. The first 7 London airports. Now we need to write the remaining 50 airports. Let me write the data directly. Okay, I'm going to let that build out in the background while I start to introduce the PowerPoint plugin, and then we're going to look at how we move some of this data into the PowerPoint plugin. So just as we talked about at the start, if I expand this a little bit, no, not that. Anyway, it was up here was the plugin, and then you get the plugin that appears in your PowerPoint. Now you've got some additional settings that you can set up in this PowerPoint plugin. So firstly, you can give it a bit of instructions about your brand guidelines and style guide, colors, and things like that. And then the important thing to toggle on is this let Claude work across files. And this allows this Claude plugin to speak to the Excel Claude plugin, as we're going to see in a moment. So you want to make sure that that is toggled on. In exactly the same way, this thing can access your connectors, and it can also access a thing called skills. And if I'm going to click on this skill, I'm going to go to our Kowalah PPTX Skill. So I've created a skill which teaches Claude about how we design slides. Let me just show you that quickly. If I go into my Claude here, just go Claude there. And I'm going to go to customize skills and Where have I got it? Oh, I'm on it. Kowalah PPTX. What is a skill, Charlie? You say? Well, if this is the first Kowalah webinar you've been on, we talk about skills a lot. They are a way of doing something, a process, and it's a way of us teaching Claude how to do something in the future. And in this example, I built a skill that teaches Claude how to create on-brand Kowalah presentations with the correct colors, fonts, logo, and layout patterns, and that Claude should use this skill whenever creating or editing a PowerPoint deck for Kowalah or a Kowalah client, including proposals and so on. And so what this skill does, it's written text. There's no code in here. It's just saying, right, these are our brand colors, Kowalah pink, Kowalah purple. These are some of our secondary colors. These are the gradients that we like to use, running pink to purple, left to right, and these are the hex codes. This is the typography that we like in our slides. We'll want railway, ideally, and then maybe some inter as well. If you can't get that, then you can default back to Arial. Some logo assets. We've got a dark logo and a white logo. And here's how you should place that logo in the slides. And then some basic slide layout patterns. These are the types of slides that we like in our template. And so no doubt you've probably got this in your own company, your own organization. I'm just going to plug in the laptop power cable before my laptop dies. But you probably, as a marketing team, have got a style guide or a brand guide. And all you need to do is to build the skill that is going to provide Claude with this access in future. So that's the main skill, is just the writing of our brand guidelines. And then the skill also includes some assets. So it includes our dark logo, our white logo, which you can't really see there. And then it includes the PowerPoint template as well. So we're basically giving Claude all of the instructions on how to create good slides and decks for the Kowalah team. So that's all good. So now we come back to our spreadsheet, and let me see, is this nearly all ready? One airport is missing. I'm just going to say stop. There we go. And now, because we've opened up both the PowerPoint agent and the Excel agent, you can see we've got this connected files. And so in PowerPoint, we are connected to the June 2020 aircraft movement. And over here, we are connected to the Kowalah plan presentation. So just imagine there's this link between the two. And so now we're going to say is using our Kowalah skill, PowerPoint skill. Hey, Claude, can you take the data that compares March 2025 and June 2020 and use your PowerPoint skills to build out a deck that follows Kowalah's brand guidelines? And so now, cross fingers, the two agents should be able to connect with each other. I have the Kowalah brand skill and I've got a PowerPoint agent available. Now let me gather the key data from both sheets to build the deck content. Now let me process the data to prepare the deck content and then share it with the PowerPoint agent. Now the use case here is, and we hear this from a lot of clients, that you've got a team that's working in Excel, building out data analysis, and then that needs to go into a deck format for presenting to executives or clients. So this might be building out a proposal for a client. It might be going for investment. It might be the board report. But there is this interaction between the numbers and then the slides. And this is where this connection between the two really comes in. So I've got the data. Now let me write this to a JSON file for the PowerPoint agent and send it with the Kowalah brand instructions. It's always good fun doing these on a Wednesday because you really don't know what is going to happen. So there's a bit of faith and trust that the tools are going to play ball. So preparing the deck data for the PowerPoint agent. Now let me send a message to the PowerPoint agent. So let's hop over. And then what we should see is that PowerPoint is going to receive that as it does just now. And let me just go back here. Please create an 8-slide Kowalah branded presentation from the deck in deckdata.json that's come over. Use the Kowalah template PowerPoint as the base. It's in your blobs. Critical brand rules. So this is what's come over from the skill. The fonts should be Railway, pink to purple gradient. The logo, use the Kowalah logo. Table styles. Okay. So we'll have to see. I'll start by reading the skill instructions, examining the data file. And the data is obviously all of the numbers that have come over. I've now got all the data. Let me start by applying the Kowalah template to the master. I've probably given Claude more work than needed because I've opened up a completely blank presentation rather than just opening up our deck template. But I thought it'd be useful just to see how it handles it. Let me build out slide 1, title slide first. Yeah, I think ideally I would have the Kowalah deck template. Mainly we use Google Slides or Canva, so we don't have a lot of PowerPoint lying around. But you no doubt would have a PowerPoint template that you can give to Claude to start with. Now, of course, we're watching this because we are doing a webinar. But the reality is you wouldn't need to be watching this. You'd probably have done the analysis in your spreadsheet as a kind of interactive experience. And then you'd be asking it to go and build out the slides. And you wouldn't need to be watching this. You'd be going, doing something else. What is it doing? There's a lot of talking about what it's going to do. Hmm. Let me see, maybe it's not going to play ball. It worked beautifully when I was doing this with the client earlier. But I always think, oh, there we go. We're getting a slide in. Not sure it's exactly on Kowalah colors, but let's see how we go. I always think when we do these Wednesday webinars that I'd much rather show you stuff live as it happens because you get a feel for the flow and how I interact with Claude much better than just giving you a slide deck that I created earlier. I want you to see the ums and ahs and how we might change things. So immediately, like this is not our brand guidelines. So that would be a bit of learning for me that I'd want to start from a Kowalah template rather than giving it a blank one and asking it to create it. But we could always tidy that up afterwards. Now it's creating slide 2 with some of the call out slide stats. I'll just get it to create a couple of these slides, and then we can kind of regroup on what we've looked at, just so that you can see the data coming across. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to leave that to build out, and we'll come back to that and see how far it gets by the time we get to the end of the webinar. So what I hope you come away from that is that the Excel and the PowerPoint plugins, super powerful, even more powerful when they're connected, because you can take your numbers and to put them into PowerPoint, and indeed vice versa. Question that often comes up, well, what if we're not Microsoft? What if we are Google and Google Sheets? There are connectors coming, and I can only say that because I was on a webinar that Anthropic were hosting the other day on Claude for Excel, and they had 10,000 people on this webinar, and the question was asked, and the answer was, whilst I can't commit to anything specific, we are very fast at shipping, and I'm excited to see what we are able to put in your hands in the coming weeks and months. So I know they're working on that, and I would expect to see very similar functionality in Google Sheets and Google Slides in the coming weeks and months. With that, so that's 40 minutes. Let's take a quick look now at AI in the news, and then we'll come back to look at our PowerPoint deck at the end and see what Claude has been able to build. So a few updates this week. One, we talked about skills a minute ago. Up until now, sharing skills has been pretty tricky. You needed to download a skill, you needed to give it to someone else, they then needed to go and upload it. It was a bit difficult to share this around. Whereas now, since last night, you can share a skill. So let me go back to my Claude here, and here I am in my Kowalah PowerPoint skill, and I'm going to click share. And now I can share it either with individuals. So Caitlin is on the team, so I could share it with Caitlin, or I can share it with everyone at Kowalah. So this kind of user to user sharing becomes a lot easier. Ideal if you've got maybe 5 people in a marketing team that want to share a specific skill, or maybe you've built a board reporting skill and it's just for your executive group. This makes things a lot easier. So definitely try that out if you have created a skill or want to share skills across your team. Next thing, just a bit of news. This happened yesterday. That Claude Code, which is a feature of Claude, very well respected and used by developers, their source code was leaked yesterday. And so you might hear about this in the news. You might hear, oh, Anthropic's had a breach, or, does this mean anything about the security of AI, and that, AI is at fault. I want to be very clear. This was a note that came from Boris Cherny, who is the sort of the leader of Claude Code. It was very clear this was human error. This has got nothing to do with the models gaining control or Skynet, and suddenly, we've reached a dangerous situation. They had a deployment process. A human got something wrong. They incorrectly left in about 2,000 source files that should not have been in there, and that got deployed, and someone worked it out and was able to unpack it. So you may well hear about this story, but sadly, as with all of these things, it's human error rather than the AI. And interestingly, what Boris says down at the bottom here, like with any other incident, the counterintuitive answer is to solve the problem by finding ways to go faster rather than introducing more process. And in this case, it's more automation and Claude checking the results. So, had Claude been a bit more involved in that deployment process, would have potentially been able to pick up that risk. So that's a little bit of AI in the news. And then the final bit of AI in the news this week is just some updated connectors on ChatGPT. So connectors are now called apps in ChatGPT, and increasingly we are seeing these connectors move from being read only to being able to write. Now, what does that mean? Well, up until now, you could connect into things like a Box, a Notion, a Linear, maybe into HubSpot, maybe into your Google or your SharePoint. And a lot of these connectors are about reading. So giving your AI tools the ability to have this context and read what's going on in these other systems. But more and more people are saying, well, look, if I'm in Claude, if I'm in ChatGPT and I'm asking questions about an opportunity, about a project, about a product that we're releasing, I don't want to just read. I actually now want to go and update the issue in Linear. I now want to go and create a new file in Dropbox. I now want to update the opportunity or the deal in HubSpot. And so increasingly, there's a push from users to have write access to these systems as well. And I've said it before on these webinars. Increasingly, I'm seeing that Claude or ChatGPT is the daily working driver for employees, and they'll less and less be going to the other systems, whether that's HubSpot or Notion or Linear, because they're just going to get the work done in their AI tool. And so writing is going to be especially important. So live Q&A. If you've got a question, do let me know. Otherwise, we are nearly at the end. I'm going to show you where Claude is so far. So Claude's building out the headline numbers. So there are some nice stats here from our spreadsheet. Heathrow, lovely number of passengers that traveled through there in January 2025. The biggest recovery stories. We talked about Gatwick being very, very low in the pandemic, but is normally the second biggest airport in the UK. So that's a nice sort of recovery story there. And then what have we got here? The movement mix shift. So how the composition of UK airport movements changed post-pandemic from January 2020 to 2025. So terminal passengers obviously grew significantly, very limited increase in mail because hardly a big change at all. A couple of things that I immediately see here, and no doubt you will have seen as well. Well, this is not the deck template that we normally use. And so there's a bit of learning for me there in terms of starting from the right template and maybe improving the use of Claude to use the skill. Secondly, you'll know that I uploaded a March 2025 data set, not a January one. So I'd want to be having a conversation with Claude about updating these. But for anyone that is in a role of I'm having to copy data from one place to another, I think this is the direction of travel moving forwards, that with a bit of tweaking, writing the right skills, perfecting how we use these with templates, it's going to simplify a lot of this sort of repeated deck creation. With that, I don't see any questions coming in, so that's no problem at all. I am going to wrap up by introducing what we're going to talk about next week on next week's call, where we are going to get into talking about building your first MCP server. What is an MCP server, Charlie? Well, MCP stands for Model Context Protocol, and it is the protocol that defines how AI tools speak to other systems. So if you're slightly technical, you will know HTTP is the protocol for websites, SMTP is the protocol for emails flying around, and MCP is how LLMs speak to other systems. Now, there are lots of pre-built connectors, HubSpot, Google Drive, SharePoint, Linear, Granola. All of these tools have got pre-built MCPs, but I'm sure you have got systems and data that maybe you've built something internally, and this is your internal system that all of your employees are using. Well, how do we build an MCP server to enable our employees to be able to talk to that system via their Claude or their ChatGPT? And so that's what we're going to be talking about next week. I'll show you some live demos. I'll show you the Kowalah MCP that we've created internally and we're soon to expose to our clients. And that will give you some ideas to head off into building your own. With that, thanks very much for joining. I hope that was useful. Go and download Claude for Excel and Claude for PowerPoint and start getting it to work on your actual live documents. I'll see you next week.